content is getting out there.
Yeah.
Yep. It looks like Rumble is still yet to catch up.
Well, that's good. I hope.
Well, it would be if Rumble actually caught up. Just to be sure that everything's working correctly. Okay. We gotta adjust the camera. Hit the lighting. I think that should be about bright enough. Alright, let's get into it. Do it. Oh, I gotta make sure that we got the Streamlabs chat doc so we can keep an eye on it all. And I need to make sure that Rumble's chat chat not available. Good to know. Gonna have to fix that then.
Well, that's not good.
No,
It's not available.
it's not, but it's not the end of the world. Pop the chat out. It's really not that huge of a deal. It's just a minor annoyance. Okay, so this is the first time using Streamlabs. According to the software, we should be live on all the different platforms, Kick included.
Cool.
Which reminds me, I actually have to get into Kick and grab their chat box just so we can keep an eye on things.
Well, that's good.
Alright, and... Oh. Theirs doesn't have the... There it is. Grab their pop-out chat. Okay, now this should be fun keeping track of all three of them. But hey, it's part of the gig.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to set close that out. Put the sound settings to U2 for the headset. Mute that one. Unmute the application audio settings. Properties. I should have actually already had this stuff set up, but one thing at a time. Set for Minecraft. Okay.
Just a vanilla Minecraft.
We had this set up for Rumble Starter because I did not know what to do for my first time on Rumble.
No?
No, sure didn't. But now we're set up for all of the above.
Well, that's good.
So, gonna have to work on these camera angles a little bit. Ooh, that is a spider. Free string.
Yeah.
Yep.
Free string.
Okay, so let's bring you over here. Bring the chat boxes back over here. Maximize OBS over in a big window. That should. Let's see. Alright, hang on. I don't need scenes. This is a stream. I need sources. I don't need scene transitions. The stats are kind of useless as well. There we go. Here, let's make this so we can actually ensure that I'm getting everyone's chat info. We'll send a nice little welcome message to everyone in chat.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that it sends to everywhere that it's supposed to. There's YouTube. So we'll just have to ship this over to the other screen. Okay, Rumble chat. And Kick chat, just to be sure. Okay. So last time I had to ditch in a hurry because I had to go pick somebody up. That somebody is sitting right next to me right now. She got out of work a little early today.
Yeah, bad weather and all that. Tends to drive people home, apparently.
Tends to drive me nuts when I have to drive in it, but hey,
know.
you know, kind of is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, interesting little topics that have happened today online that you kind of missed while you were at work.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. is looking at banning soda from food stamps.
Well, that's a good thing. It should have never been on food stamps.
So, we are actually in agreement on that one.
Neither should energy drinks, but then again...
You know, it's fine to sit here and say that you're free person and you can make your own decisions, that's fine. With your own money, okay? We're talking about a taxpayer-funded program that, for being honest, has restrictions already anyway on what you can and can't buy. Adding soda to that list of restrictions is not really that burdensome, and in fact, is well within their purview to do so. So any argument to the contrary is largely intellectually dishonest, actually. Either courtesy of, not being informed about the nature of the program, or what have you. Look, the Congress has this really annoying ability to cede certain powers to the executive or judiciary. And one of those has to do with enforcement agencies such as like DHS and the FBI, and unfortunately the IRS, which I personally argue is, largely unconstitutional. But there are people out there who argue, but it's an amendment. Yeah, well, about that. The IRS has largely been unaccountable for a very long time, to the point where they've actually violated another amendment in the Constitution.
Which one?
The one about taxation without representation.
Oh my.
Yes, which is actually one of the founding amendments for this country.
That isn't good.
No, it's not. It's actually really bad. And I would argue that point, but no one wants to hear it because they're so used to paying taxes, and why bother fighting it? Here's the thing. We are actively being taxed at about a rate of anywhere from 15 to 37% of our income every year, which is absolutely unacceptable, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We started the Revolutionary War that founded this nation over a 3% tax. So yes, that is entirely unacceptable and should be spoken to as such.
Mm-hmm.
And if the founders could see this happening to the country that they founded today, they would absolutely, positively, and this is not a call to action of any sort, but they would 100% have a Revolutionary War 2.0 electric boogaloo that crap out of existence.
Yeah.
Now, we live in a civilized modern society, so no one's really looking to pick a fight. Largely, we want to solve our issues peaceably. In fact, I would argue probably about a good 98% of the population feels that way. About wanting to solve things peaceably. Where possible, in fact, if at all possible, avoiding any sort of conflict is kind of been our new norm. It's kind of like that Conan the Barbarian movie where, the bad guy has kind of thrown off violence in exchange for ruling the world through manipulation.
That wouldn't be good.
No, it's not, and yet it's been basically the United States way for quite some time, actually.
Yeah.
Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad, just kind of saying it's a thing. And it's kind of been a thing for a hot minute for us, actually.
That is true.
And that's not necessarily, again, it's not necessarily a good thing, but it is a proper criticism of our foreign policy, where we have actively, manipulated other countries against themselves for our own interests. And in some cases, manipulated other countries against other countries. It's just kind of the way the game's been played. In fact, actually, if you want to get technical about this whole Ukraine thing, the quiet part that no one wants to say out loud is that we're largely responsible for creating that particular conflict as well.
We are?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, we fundamentally caused the collapse of the Soviet Union,
Well, that's true. I remember that.
which is largely responsible for the creation of states, of country states like Ukraine and Georgia and other places.
Wait, what do you mean by Georgia?
There's a country called Georgia. It used to be a part of the Soviet Union. Now it's its own country.
Okay, I did not know that there was a country called Georgia.
Yep, sure is.
Okay.
In fact, if it wasn't for good old U.S. meddling, largely the Soviet Union would have collapsed on its own anyway. But we did kind of speed the process along, so there's that. But there's also the fact that we've been openly egging on fights in other nations for a very long time at this point. It's basically become our disgusting little CIA-based hobby for a long time.
So basically, it's our dirty little secret.
It's not even a secret, really. It's just
I know.
kind of something that's openly known.
It's a secret that ain't much of a secret. I'll put it that way.
In fact, there are a lot of things that the U.S. would rather I not say on here because they're kind of like black eyes on the international community scale.
Yeah.
A couple of those black eyes are like really bad, but let's see here. Back to the Russia and Ukraine situation. So not too long ago, back when good old there's about a billion insults I could use for his name, but I'm not going to use any of them. Back when Obama Biden was a team up for presidency, the dirty little secret that they would rather not have get out is the fact that they were using their business ties, or rather their political power, to help influence their business ties internationally. One of those business ties was an energy company in Ukraine called Burisma. We all know about the Burisma scandal on the right. It's been kind of a dirty little secret that every one of us on the right has known about, but we haven't really... I don't know why we haven't done anything about it. That's a question for the powers that be, not for me.
Yeah.
I would like an answer as to why we haven't, but there it is, because that particular action was done when he was vice president. He does not share presidential immunity, especially for, I would argue, pretty close to criminal actions when he was vice president. But that's just my opinion. That is a slime, and I need to kill that slime. And there's a witch. Oh, no, that's just a zombie. Good. I am okay with that. Okay. So yeah. After World War II, there was a period where Russia was openly founded as the Soviet Union. We all know this, right?
Yep.
In fact, it was probably even founded before World War II, and I might be getting my timeline wrong on that part. I'm not a master of Russian history. I'm just knowledgeable of U.S. history and a lot of the really messed up stuff that we've done. One of those really messed up things that we did was after the fall of the Soviet Union during, or some people would say it's technically during the Cold War. I don't know about that. It probably did stretch back to during the Cold War. Our CIA took it upon themselves to kind of sow the seeds of division internationally, especially in regards to certain Russian, formerly Soviet Union countries such as Ukraine. Because we didn't want the Russian-Soviet bloc to return in any way, shape, or form. Which is kind of how the international, like, espionage politics thing worked back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, your power came from your opponent's weakness, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly the best way to go about things, by the way.
What is the best way to go about it?
Well, generally, it's better to have peaceable alliances. But, that can't always happen. Hang on, I got a skeleton trying to pin me pretty good. You got me down to a heart, and you screwed up my barrier. That was protecting me from threats outside of this particular shaft. But it worked in my favor because it killed the slime, and I just needed one slime ball for when I do sticky pistons, which are coming up here soon.
Ah. Are you gonna make a hidden door with sticky pistons?
That or something farm related. I'm not sure yet. Okay. So this is a voxel based game that uses lighting as a spawn counter. So that's exactly what we're going to work on first. Yeah, you can stay in the water there, Mr. Skeleton. So anyway, one of the more despicable... There's a lot of really despicable things that the CIA has done. They are literally the dirt works organization for the United States. If you want it done, and it's a bad, dark, evil thing that you want done, they're the guys you talk to, right? Especially internationally, which is why they're not supposed to operate domestically. And anytime anyone's tried to prove that they have been, because they have in the past, it's largely been refuted by them, and then it's basically resulted down to, oh, trust us, bro, when, people try to say, hey, you're violating your charter. So nothing ever gets done about it because, then the political parties that be, which I'm pretty sure some of the CIA members actually have blackmail on, making it impossible for them to actually do anything about it. You kind of know how things go from there. Nothing ever gets done about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And if any member of the CIA ever caught wind of this stream, which is going to happen at some point, they'd probably want to put, the kibosh on me talking about this stuff. The problem is that it's not so much that it's a secret. Everyone knows that they do it. It's not a secret at this point. There's, no secret to be had. So, it's just kind of pointless for them to sit there and try to hide it. We know what they are. It's what they were chartered to do. The problem that we have with them is the stuff that they have been doing domestically that violates their charter, such as influencing broadcasting organizations, such as the news media. That is not something that's allowed in their charter.
Yeah.
They would sit here and scream up and down, no, we haven't, no, we haven't, no, we have. Yeah, they have. And they've been doing it since since about the 60s, actually. And probably even before that. My question is why, instead of hiding it at this point, why not just own up to it, say that you made the mistake, and just get it over with, right? Bite the bullet. Say you won't do it again, pay some sort of restitution, or, offer up doing some charity work or something to make America not hate your guts, and openly get back to serving the American people in the way that you're supposed to. That would be the smart thing to do, right? But this is government we're talking about here, and government doesn't play very smart, typically.
No. So if they're not going to do a smart thing, what are they going to do?
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure about that. You're asking me about the future. To be honest with you, that is an answer I wish I had. If I did,
That's a good point.
I'd probably be rich. Um, but no, at the end of the day, it's going to fall to the people we elect to Congress and the Senate to inevitably clamp down on this misbehavior by these executive agencies. Donald Trump can cut as much as he wants, and he can cut left, right, and center, and even in the back if he wants to. The problem is those are executive order cuts. They're not permanent cuts. 4 years are over, the next administration can roll right on in and undo them completely. Which is why I don't think we're going to see any of Donald Trump's anything submitted as law because, well, the CIA, it would disadvantage people like the CIA. And anything that would even remotely get in the way of their operations gets treated, well, I'd say ask Fidel Castro, but he died of old age. But ask anyone associated with him what happens when you happen to run afoul of the CIA. Put it that way.
Well, that ain't good.
No, it ain't.
I can already guess how bad it'd be.
In fact, to put it bluntly, the sheer act of me speaking out about their misdeeds in the past opens up the possibility of me waking up some morning to having some cut brake lines somewhere.
That isn't good.
No, it's not. And they'd sit here and deny that they'd ever operate in such a way, but the fact is, they've operated that way since their inception. It's kind of their job. I would actually openly expect them to do it and would be openly disappointed if they did not. To be blunt. Like, what are my taxpayer dollars going for? You can't even keep up your own, agency by silencing dissent. I kind of wonder what you are good at that point.
Good point.
So, and again, I'm not trying to inspire their wrath or anything. I'm just openly saying that these are the things that we, the people, actively already know about, and we do suspect them as being involved with JFK's assassination. We expect them to be involved with the Martin Luther King MLK assassination. We suspect them of all kinds of domestic issues that we've seen, including actually a mild amount of involvement with 9/11. And by mild amount, I mean they, with Bush Sr., actually trained the guy that was basically the leader of Al-Qaeda for the entirety of the 10 years or more that we were in the Middle East, hunting his sorry butt down.
Ah.
And a funny story about that one that'll get me banned on YouTube and probably piss off several government types. We paid for his training. We paid for a lot of weapons and trainings to go on in the Middle East, but specifically under Bush Sr., we trained him, and I think it was under Nixon or the one immediately before Nixon, we started training dictators in the Middle East because we wanted to have them constantly at war with each other, because we figured out that was, basically a good, easy way to get oil in our country without having to tap our own oil tables. Which, if you can deplete another country's resources without touching your own, well, why wouldn't you, right? Especially if those nations are viewed largely by the open first world as largely barbaric, uncivilized peoples who, if you know, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So you said you're not going to cook tonight?
I am going to have to cook tonight, and I'm streaming right now, so maybe, unless you want to be a part of it, maybe take a chill pill.
Yeah, we are streaming right now.
That's good.
And we're openly having a conversation about some of our misdeeds coming from the CIA, which started out with soda weirdly enough.
I know, right?
Again, I'm not actually criticizing them for this stuff because what's done is done. If we're being honest, what has been done doesn't matter. It's what we do moving forward that matters. And I personally don't think that the CIA should be dechartered. I think that they should be repurposed with fixing a lot of the damages that we've done as kind of like reparation, not really reparations, but more along the lines of trying to redeem certain things. Because openly gonna say this, a lot of the Islamic invasions that are happening in Europe right now, and this is gonna come off as racist, but it's really not. A lot of the immigrations and stuff that are being weaponized against Western nations, we actually kind of caused that. It wasn't on purpose by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a byproduct or side effect of some of our operations over there that should not have. We really should have handled differently. Not saying that we shouldn't have done them. A lot of them we needed to do. We didn't have a choice. But they could have been handled more diplomatically than they were. And as a result of that, well, now current generations get to pay the price in blood because we've made so many enemies over in the Middle East and in the Eastern nations. And I'm not saying that we should ally ourselves with like Russia or China, but maybe making it so we can at least sit at the same dinner table without actively trying to poison each other would be a good idea. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
It's kind of like we've gone from being in-laws to in-law enemies, and it's just like we share a planet here, people, so,
What's the point in being enemies?
Largely, a lot of our enemy issues with other nations are not actually that there are enemies, it's just that they're minorly in our way in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
For example, Russia is our competitor for oil distribution in worldwide, right? Especially more specifically in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of our NATO allies are in Europe, so you can kind of see where them being a business rival of ours, distributing oil and gas to our allies in Europe is kind of a little bit of a problem for us.
That is true.
It's not so much a problem as it is just inconvenient because they can come along and offer up a lower price tag when we decide to say, hey, we're going to charge, $5 a barrel for oil. This is an example. There's no way we'd go this low. But when we say $5 per barrel, they can sit there and go $4.
Yeah.
And then when we decide to go 3.5, they could say 3, and it just kind of keeps cycling down until Europe gets rock bottom dollar oil. And either we take the hit or Russia takes the hit. And it's kind of a problem because they're our allies. We should be the ones supplying them with oil, not Russia. At least that's the current understanding of things. So then Ukraine decides to pop off, and some random Ukrainian dude decides to blow up one of the pipelines from Russia to, I believe it was Germany, causing a massive international incident. That part was basically the trigger to what we were kind of getting ready to do anyway to cause conflict between Ukraine and Russia. That is basically the crux of the entirety of what's going on in Ukraine, and it is literally all about energy distribution, 100%.
Yeah.
And that is the part that no one wants to discuss, no one wants to allow to be said, and anyone with half a brain as far as international politics is concerned would actively try to shut people like me up from talking about it because it goes against the current narrative.
That makes sense, I guess.
And that narrative is essential to these people making like a buttload of money. And by the way, if you think it's just because of like Democrats are doing it or whatever that I'm actually openly speaking up about this stuff, nah, it's kind of this. Number one, I'm not really a whistleblower. This is just stuff that the American public is more or less known about for quite some time.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a dirty little non-secret that we've all known about. And anytime someone decides that they're going to speak up about it, you know, in public or otherwise, they get the stink eye. They get basically barred from participating in politics and basically discredited as whack job. Even though they're usually pretty spot on with it.
Yeah.
And again, it's not even a criticism. It's just the way things are. It's disgusting, sure. To be honest, 90% of politics is disgusting. International, local, state, federal, it doesn't matter. Politics are usually pretty gross. You know? It's part of the systems that we have here on Earth. They're perfectly imperfect. And they're that way for a reason. Because as a human being, no one is going to come up with a better way to do things because of the way things are. And that's okay.
Well, that is true.
So in that particular spirit, I will talk about this stuff, and nothing that the CIA has to say about it will scare me because I know the history. You know, I've been around the block enough times to have heard all of the little evil stories about all the bad stuff that they've done. Crap. That set myself on fire. You know.
That's not good.
No, that didn't work the way that I wanted it to.
What were you trying to do?
Set up a infinite cobblestone farm.
Oh, the infinite cobblestone generator?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it didn't work the way that I wanted it to because I don't have it set up right. Number one, the hopper and chest are in the wrong location. Yeah, I don't even have it set up right. There we go. But dig right here, and we'll just put 2 blocks there, and that should functionally
So, concerning the whole JFK and the whole bad stuff getting removed from foods and drinks.
Oh, RFK Jr. and the...
Yeah, RFK Jr. You know who I meant.
Yeah.
The free something with the mushroom extract in it and all the natural ingredients being better than Sunny D, which is supposed to be good for you.
So...
Among other things.
Here's the funny part that no one wants to say about a lot of this stuff. All of these things that they're saying are bad for you are actually openly bad for you, right? That's not a question here. What is a question is, if they're so bad for us, why have we not seen more widespread effects? Well, the answer to that is actually it's statistics. Fun fact. When you have more exposure of a thing, the side effects of that thing become more apparent.
Yeah?
And that's just kind of the way that things are statistically. Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out a good build for the cobblestone thing. Okay, that, like that. Oh, that's gonna cause some issues, I think. So for now, okay. The thing is that people have kind of gotten this, like, totally backwards idea about how things are versus how things should be.
Mm-hmm.
So people like RFK Jr., they have an idea about how things should be. But the reality is that in some cases, a lot of cases actually, we live in a world where there is a limit on resources.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is that that limit is a lot higher than what people have been giving this world credit for. Like, a lot higher. In fact, I would argue that it's not infinite, but it's really close to it.
Yeah.
So, the problem is with people that think along the lines of these big corporations and whatever, is they get seen as being just for their own profit, which is for the most part accurate, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, that's not a problem, that's just reality. And I get really tired of people trying to deny that reality. They want to sit there and act like everyone has to be altruistic all the time, and that's just not how things are. In fact, even these streams have an ulterior motive or purpose, mostly of attaining an audience, so when we do get to the point where either this becomes sustainable as a way to make money, or, you know, maybe an audience large enough so when we do decide to write a book or a comic book or do some other creative works, they can inevitably, you know, see what we've done and see if they want to partake in it. And hopefully that day can happen soon. The thing is people don't want, like, tartrazine and all this stuff in their food. That's fine. I agree with that notion. In fact, actually, it's probably the best thing that we've seen come out of the political process so far for a very long time. Okay, so it should work just fine as long as I refocus the water in such a way that it goes and drags everything to the hopper. We're good. There we go. A nice little stone mill. I gotta close up these two doorways for now so that way I can roast up some copper and make copper doors. But no, my purpose here is not to, by the way, paint a massive target on the back of my head for the CIA to get a hair across their butt about, right? The purpose of this is just to kind of discuss where things have gone wrong and what things can be done in the future to try to fix them. There's not really much we can do to fix the stuff that we've already done for damage, right?
That is true.
And if we're being honest and actually realistic in nature about things, arguing over who could have done it better is a useless argument.
Yeah.
That's like That's like breaking the vase and then saying, my brother did it when you did it, but the vase is already broken.
That is true.
Um, you know, and because the vase is already broken, playing the blame game just doesn't get anywhere. It makes you feel better about yourself, but as far as actually getting something done to fix what you broke, it does not. It's why the whole Democrat versus Republican blame game that everyone likes to play so often, I find tedious and boring. Because it doesn't solve the problem. In fact, in most cases, it ends up making more problems. And no one in the political spectrums want to hear this fact because they want to continuously play the blame game because it's profitable for them to play it. And by the way, that particular game is played at the detriment of the American people. Another little fact that just about every politician worldwide would be sitting here if they heard this particular stream. They'd be saying, "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! You're telling them all the dirty little secrets, all the dirty laundry." And it's like, yeah, well, I shouldn't have to.
Of course, they wouldn't want their dirty laundry aired.
The problem here is that they should be the ones talking about it, not me.
That is true. They really should be.
It shouldn't be some random dude on the internet talking about this stuff. It really should be the people who did the thing, and it should be followed swiftly with an apology saying, yes, we screwed up, we are sorry. The problem is that you can't do that in leadership, because to them, that kind of thing is seen as weakness. Here's the problem. When you show strength all the time, people don't think that you're human. Here's a fun fact about humans. We make mistakes. Politicians make a lot of mistakes.
That is very true.
They don't want to admit to it because if they did, it makes them quote-unquote look bad and gives them more of a headache than they feel like is worth it. Well, we're kind of at the point now where their headache has become a problem for the rest of us because they refuse to deal with it. And their refusal to deal with it is more bore out of pride than anything else. So they're effectively becoming, detrimental to the safety and well-being of their own nations in account of their own pride.
True enough.
If they could just humble themselves for about 5 minutes and return to mission for a little bit, and get back to doing the will of the people for their nations, which is largely what Trump is trying to, by saying stuff like, oh, I want Canada as the 51st state. That's him trolling, trying to get Canada to do what's right for their own people while he does what's right for his.
True enough.
And the larger overarching point is that international trade and business is largely a lie. That's the thing that no one wants to say out loud because we have allies and all this other stuff, but the reality is the perceived value in international trade is just that. It's just perceived value. There's no real value to back it up. With certain very, very limited exceptions, of course. It's like we no longer have to go to an entire other continent for lemons. We can grow them here in the U.S. They're called artificial greenhouses, and we have tons of them. You can technologically maintain climates
That is true.
that allow you to maintain whatever plant you want. So as far as actual needs goes, no, we don't actually need international trade for anything, really. We just kind of use it for our own power and laziness, effectively. Because without international trade, we'd have to grow everything at home, which is, by the way, the other thing that Donald Trump is trying to push for. Bringing businesses back to the United States So we're not dependent on countries like China, who, by the way, hate our friggin' guts just for existing most of the time. And making it so we make this stuff at home. Which is the way we should have been to begin with.
That is very true.
We should never have been relying on other countries for our medical supplies. That one shocked the heck right out of me that so many of our medical supplies came from foreign nations. Like, excuse me? Those are critical life-saving devices and you're relying on another country that really doesn't have our best interest at heart? Are you serious? And lo and behold, there it is. And 100% Trump is absolutely correct in saying that this should not be the way things are. He's absolutely correct on that point. There's a lot of other things that he is absolutely correct on. I'm not going to say that I agree with everything that he does, because there's some things that I don't. I agree with him on deportations, but I don't necessarily agree that we should be, removing legal statuses from people that we authorized.
Yeah.
And then deporting them over it. I think that that's wrong.
Yeah, it is.
But I also understand why it has to happen, because there's over 500,000 of them, and they were authorized without just cause. They didn't meet the standard for refugee status or anything. They were just let in courtesy of Biden, basically. So I understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, we gave these people our word. We should kind of honor it in some way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, that sucks to say, but, when you tell someone you're going to do a thing, you really should do a thing.
Instead of not.
Yeah. But, that's immigration politics, and there's not really anything we can do about it.
That is very true.
So while I personally don't agree with, everything Trump does, he does do a lot of good. And so does Elon. And a lot of lefties out there are screaming their heads off, saying, no, they don't, no, they don't, no, they don't, because they don't stand for anything. They don't stand against anything. They're just told a narrative and they're told to go along with it. Or they're seeking attention. Like, that's 100% what it is. They get on here and places like Twitch or whatever, and they hear voices like Hassan Piker telling them that everything that Trump does is bad and America bad and all this other garbage that is really just a bunch of garbled nonsense. And they're expected to, toe the line, basically, from people that really are just doing it to earn money. They don't care about the consequences of their getting that money. That's really the truth of the matter. In fact, actually, Hassan, I would argue, is largely audience captured and doesn't believe 90% of what he says. He's just saying it to maintain his audience, which basically pays him his, scratch money.
True enough.
And I would argue that's largely the case for a lot of streamers out there. Myself included, by the way. The difference is we don't really have much of an audience yet.
Yeah, at the moment. That is very
But
true.
that being said, I believe what I believe, and, I'm not going to compromise because some knucklehead in chat decides to say, you're wrong about something, and then doesn't provide me with proof of where I'm wrong. And if he does provide proof and I can't find a counterbalance to argue against it, then I will take it into consideration. It'll go into what we call the think about it box, basically.
That is true. That would be a very good thing to do.
But it doesn't mean I'm going to instantly jump on board.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't make you jump on board like that. I hope you wouldn't jump on board that easily.
You know, it's just like the shirt that I wear. I wear Frank Castle's Punisher shirt all the time, right? That doesn't mean I agree with 100% of what he does. Like, there are other ways to do things first, right? We all kind of accept that. As much entertainment as we get out of Frank, you know, beating a PDF file for CP or whatever, you know, there's a certain reality that we are expected to behave civilized, in a very civilized manner. Not, you know, there is that expectation. And I'm not about to violate that expectation by going out and finding someone like the guy who did bad things to a certain family member.
Oh, yeah.
And feeding him to a lawnmower or something, you know? It's just not the way things are done. Excuse me.
Yeah.
As much as personally I would find that gratifying, at the same token, it's just not, it's not right. It's not what we do. So, we don't do them. There are things that we don't do. So, that's just kind of the way that it is. I would like to be able to sit here and say that I would, quote unquote, enjoy seeing people get their comeuppance or their just desserts. The problem with that is that phrase about what goes around comes around and comes around again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, that applies all the way around, not just to the people who've done me wrong. It applies to me as well. So let's go hypothetical here for a minute. Let's say someone did bad thing, right? And I sought my own form of justice because of bad thing. Well, here's the catch. Let's say somewhere along the line I accidentally do similar bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm held to the same level of justice that I imposed upon that person, and that's the way the world works. There's no such thing as a double standard. The double standard principle doesn't work the way people think it does. It's a lie.
How does it really work then?
The world has a way of making you pay for what you've done, whether you want to pay it or not.
Well, that makes sense. Basically, what goes around comes around, or you get what you give.
Yeah. And this is not so much that it's a optional thing. I've actually been there to see certain people, both in my family and otherwise, get their just desserts naturally. I've seen karma literally come along and bite them in the ass for misdeeds that they've done to other people. Happens all the time. An example is that one of my uncles, that I'm not going to name, is currently serving probably 2 or 3 consecutive life sentences for killing a person and then trying to impersonate said person. And there are certain family members out there who are saying, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. But he's serving probably 2 or 3 consecutive life sentences for trying to kill a person and impersonating them to obtain their marijuana farm, effectively. So, that is the state of my family's, like, darkest misdeeds that no one wants me to talk about, and rightfully so. Here's the thing. If you can't talk about your own family's misdeeds or dark dealings and the bad things that you and your family have done, you really have no place at all talking about anyone else's misdeeds.
That is very true.
So I'm not going to sit here and criticize Biden and Trump and all these other people who have family misdeeds that they've both been, you know, involved with or seen done or whatever, without confronting the fact that my family's done some pretty dirty shit too. You know, it's human nature that some people are going to do bad things. And I'm glad that we don't live in a society where I get punished for what they do. I'm certainly glad we've evolved as human beings to be past that kind of shit. Guaranteed I would never be able to tolerate it. I'd tell the first person that told me that I was responsible for any misdeed that my predecessors have done, I'd tell them to, pardon my language here, but I'd tell them to fuck themselves to oblivion at that point.
Yep.
Because that is a power structure I refuse to live with.
Oh yeah, it's like that one character from that one anime. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
He was being held accountable for something that he wasn't even born to do.
Yep.
He was even born when it happened.
Yeah. You want me to tell you want to hear me say to someone's face, fuck yourself to oblivion. Try to hold me to account for what my ancestors did, because it's the quickest way to have it happen. And I will have absolutely no sympathy for the person I tell that either. In fact, just on general principle. We're going to double check in on the chats real quick. One viewer, one follower. Do we have any... Hang on, let's make sure that YouTube's actually doing...
The thing
playing nice.
today.
Because sometimes I've heard rumor that sometimes the Streamlabs thing
Doesn't like to stream.
doesn't always play nice. Yeah, as an example, oh, who liked me on Facebook? It doesn't say. Heh. Well, anyway. So yeah, that's largely kind of where I'm at on a lot of this stuff. But there are some things that some idiots are out there doing right now that yeah, there goes my phone. That's just great.
Well, it's not the first time your phone has fallen.
Ah, heavens, no.
And I highly doubt it'll be the last.
Nope, sure won't. We're just doing a quick check-in on the platforms, making sure. Okay, well, it's not actually just chatting. It's straight up, we're doing Minecraft, so, you know, that's wrong on Kick. I'll have to make sure that that stuff is all situated on the platforms correctly. Because apparently it's not. Not at all.
Well, that's not good.
No, it is not. Number one, the playlist changes aren't correct on YouTube. Number two, the game itself Bedrock Edition, save. Even YouTube didn't have it set right.
That isn't good.
Oh man, does Rumble have it set right?
Uh-oh.
Are people actually seeing this correctly?
I hope they are.
Oh man, because we've been talking about quite a bit, and
Yes, we have.
I'd hate to think that there are no viewers except for myself just monitoring stuff.
'Cause that isn't good.
No, it's not. Let's grab a share link on X for Rumble real quick and see if we can't get some good people on here. Because there we go. Shared to X. I didn't do that either. That was dumb of me. Need to pay more attention to what I do.
Yeah.
Um.
Because somehow that's not a good thing.
No, it's not. Also, for whatever reason, okay, I can't actually go live on Facebook yet. I need my followers from my main account to go over to my other one.
Ah.
I'll deal with that later. Alright, well, I can't really do anything about it yet anyway because, like...
You've got to figure
Yeah.
things out.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I have to do with Facebook to make sure that it operates and I can go live on Facebook because that's where most of my viewership comes from, is probably my Facebook friends and family members and whatnot.
That is true.
To their credit, they put up with me.
Yeah, I know, right?
And that's not even a lack of self-confidence thing, it's just like their family and friends.
Yeah. You have faith in them, sort of.
Well, it's not so much they have faith in them, it's just like they show up when they want to and there's nothing wrong with it and I appreciate it, you know? But
That is true.
okay, let's scroll through some of the YouTube thumbnails real quick and see what's going on. Judge is furious about deportations. Hey, guess what?
What?
You're in for a shock there, Mr. Judge. Separation of powers. Congress told the United States President back when they wrote the bills for the deportations as well as immigration that it was exclusively within the control of the United States President. If you do not like it, pound sand because it's what they did. Or you can try to rule it unconstitutional. Either way, the President has every right to carry out his duties as assigned by Congress.
That is true.
And too bad if you don't like it.
Oh, yeah.
So when Donald Trump says stuff like, it's the law, so yeah, he means it. And he's well within his rights as President of the United States to say those things and act accordingly. Because like we've said all along, if you don't like the law, change it. Change it. Literally. Get the votes and change it. Gotta be careful. That probably attacked me by making me drown for trying to fight him underwater. Yeah, I can usually win pretty good. They're not, like, their swimming is not that great. But
Yeah, I was talking about the ones that carry tridents.
yeah, no, those are pure death at that point. You don't want to. No, I
Yeah.
don't.
You don't want to fight those guys.
I don't tangle with those. I generally make it a point to avoid them. Okay. So we have the cobblestone farm. I'm going to have to dig in the mine deep enough to get to redstone, which is fine. I'm going to need obsidian so I can get the nether portal up and running. That part I might do offline because that is really boring mining obsidian like that. and I don't want to torment people with,
Mining it that way.
Actually, I don't really have to mine it that way. There is another thing I can do, but I'd have to find a dripstone cave to make it work.
Well, that's true.
And that is making a lava source block generator using a cauldron and a dripstone.
Very true.
And I'm pretty sure I'm not too far from a dripstone cavern. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong about that, but I'm kind of under the impression that the mine that I was digging earlier could actually be tethered directly to a dripstone cavern. And I might be able to get what I need. So yeah, a lot of people are probably thinking, how is he talking about politics and remembering where he's at in politics and playing this stinking game at the same time? I'm not. I'm really not. I'm just kind of winging it a little bit, if we're being honest. There's like no focus in this conversation at all because there's really no one here to keep me focused in it. The one person that is just barely keeping the conversation together.
And it's only because I don't really have much input for it.
Yeah. Now, if we were talking about stuff like Pokemon,
or what I'm currently playing,
then yeah, we'd have conversations for hours because, well, number one, she knows more of the Pokemon stuff than I do, like 100% more.
Speaking of knowing about things, I had the weirdest conversation the last few minutes of my shift.
Uh-oh.
We for some reason started talking about Twilight, me and my coworker.
Yeah, I'd rather Gargle Glass. I hate Twilight.
I tried to watch Vampire Diaries. I told him, a little bit, I'm not a big fan. And then it somehow turned into Twilight. And he was asking questions.
Like I said, I'd rather Gargle Glass.
I know.
Hate Twilight.
I just happened to know the
I
answer
really
to
wasn't.
was.
And this is kind of taboo to say on the internet. Really wasn't a big Vampire Diaries fan either.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
Now, if you were to say Blade, then you have my interest. Or the original Dracula with or one of the older Draculas with Christopher Lee in it, for example. Then you definitely have my attention. Because, Christopher Lee is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And while I might not agree with him politically, I don't know if I would or not. By the way, I don't know what his politics are, actually. I don't really care. He's just a really good actor, and I really like his stuff. Loved him in Lord of the Rings and everything else he's touched. He made a really good Count Dooku as well. So... I hate digging to redstone. It sucks. Actually, what sucks is that I know how deep I have to go. And I know that I said I was doing this vanilla, so no teleporter mods. So every time I have to go down here, I have to go down here manually.
Oh my.
I'm also kind of hoping to run into some dripstone too. Which, we all know that is a biome-related hit or miss.
That is true. Well, if you manage to be able to find Lush Cavern, you're probably close to a dripstone cave.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm doing the good old-fashioned hard mine, basically. The one that can land you into a warden if you're not careful.
That is true.
Hey, look, tough. Tough! But now, circling back to the CIA for a hot second and other lettered agency. Oh, look. The thing I was looking for. One of the things I'm looking for. Look, you're not going to have some kind of foreign affairs agency that does dirt work for your nation and expect them to be perfectly innocent and flawless. That's not how it works.
No, it's never how it works.
Like, I don't care how much good you think your side is. The reality is, good in certain international politics especially is largely perspective based. Just because you're doing good for you and your allies does not mean you're doing good for everyone in the equation. In fact, a majority of people in that particular equation might hate you. In fact, they're probably going to hate you. And there are people in the international community who do handle these politics every day that are going to sit there and say, too bad, that's the way the game's played. Well, that's fine, just, don't expect everyone to want to play that way. And when you retire and the guy after you decides to take over, I know there's a highly sophisticated term that I'm failing to use there, decides that that's not the way the game should be played and wants to alter the rules a little bit, you can't get mad when they alter the rules. That applies for sitting U.S. presidents as well. When you make a ruling, like, say, Joe Biden does a thing with an executive order, and Donald Trump rolls right in and says, nah, that's BS, we're not going to do it that way. You can't get upset about it because that's the rules. Them are the rules. You can file protests all that you want, but the reality is, you've become irrelevant. And it'll happen, by the way, to Donald Trump, too. It happened to Obama. It happened to both the Bushes. It happened to, the heck was his name? The really bad one there. The other really bad one that wasn't Biden. He just died recently, too. I should know his name. I feel terrible about that. Jimmy Carter. It happened to Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton. It happens to all of them. They eventually get timed out based off of their relevance, because as soon as they leave office, that relevance drops like a friggin' rock. And it's not anything against them personally. It's just the nature of the system. Best way for a president to become irrelevant, let him serve his term or two and get over it. I know what this block is. I sure do. Call me crazy, but I think I just found a stronghold.
No, I think you just found the trial chamber.
You're right. Ooh.
The stronghold is made of stone.
Well,
You just found yourself a trial chamber.
we're gonna mark this with some torches, one on each side, just so that way we know, and probably an extra block forward, just so we know that this is a very important location. And hopefully I don't have to mine right straight through it, because that's usually not something I want to do. In fact, actually what I'm probably going to do is when I'm done doing the other mining, I'm probably going to mine back into this, but build a door somewhere. Or find the entrance for it and mark it somewhere, somehow. Yeah. Another thing I don't like about Bedrock is that you can't, have a mini-map you can in Java. And I really wish we could in Bedrock. I wish they'd add that feature through Mojang. It doesn't even have to be a big one, just, something we can use to have a general grasp of the area surrounding our character a little bit better. Heck, it doesn't even have to do, it doesn't even have to do the underground bits, just something that shows our general location in the overworld.
That would be really cool.
Or, bring back the old school locator maps that they took away from us and make it so we can put it in our offhand.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
that sounds like a pretty viable option as well. But if I'm being honest, though, the thing that I'd really like to see the U.S. start doing,
What?
aside from like the usual stuff that we've been talking about, improving our foods, bringing manufacturing home, I'd like to see a more concerted effort to bring food production back to the U.S. Like growing our own eggs, and milking our own cows and stuff like that.
That would be really cool to see happen.
Also bringing back more of the labor jobs, like working on our own vehicles. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with having imports and exports, but like, it shouldn't be the only thing that our economy relies on is import and export. And the fact that we've become reliant on these things is part of the problem. That's why you have union bosses like that jackass last year who was sitting there saying, I'm not getting my way, so all the ports are shut down on the eastern seaboard. And it's like, you're a union boss. You're not the workers. You're not the president of the United States. You really don't have the authority to do that. And the United States can actually actively overtake the ports and enforce them and literally force them open under national security. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's literally a part of the U.S. Constitution, and you can't stop it. So, sucks to suck, my dude, but... it is literally the truth. And by the way, where's all those threats about the ports being fucking fucked over if Donald Trump won the election? I thought that was going to happen. In fact, I had a guy in X actually trying to call that one out. Remind me again, who's paying what now? See, fun fact, that union boss dude really didn't have as much power as he thought he did. Union bosses will never have the power that the U.S. president does, and they'll just have to get over it. So when the president says those ports are gonna fucking open, those ports are gonna fucking open one way or the other. Even if he has to send in the National Guard and the military to operate them. And there is nothing you can do to stop it. Fun fact about that too, by the way, there's actually an agreement that was signed by the port owners, the international port owners themselves, that basically says as much, that they cannot be a detriment to national security. If they are, then effectively the United States has the right, the federal government, by the way, has the right to overtake those ports. And use the military to do so. If need be. Fortunately, I don't think we've really gotten to that point, per se. And I don't think we ever will, because a lot of port workers are actually a lot... Fun fact that the Democrats don't like. A lot of port workers, not union bosses, but the people that actually work for a living, they're largely conservative-leaning individuals. Something that every Democrat hates to hear that fact, but it is the truth, actually. And again, I'm not talking about the union fucking slack-jawed faggots who have never worked a day in their fucking lives. I'm talking about the people who actually work for a living. You know, all of your auto workers and stuff. Yeah, a lot of those people, they were just about as pissed off about the border as every other Republican quote-unquote MAGA person was. That's the thing that no Democrat wants to hear, and because of their lack of embracement on that fact, their failure to embrace that particular fact is why they're hurting so bad politically right now. It's why they have a 27% approval rating. Ooh, a spider.
Oh,
A
nice.
spitter!
Get some string from that.
Not this time, just got an eye.
Aw. Well,
Yeah.
At least you can make potions.
Yeah, that's true. Got a lot of zombified villagers down here, too.
Potion of weakness and a golden apple.
Yeah, I have neither of those things. Actually, what I'd really like to have right now is the spyglass so I can see, you know... Eye of Thundara, give me sight beyond sight! Kind of situation. Because I'd like to be able to spot some things while I'm down here without having to actually walk up to them. Given that I've seen approximately 4 to 5 different skeleton archers since I put out this little platform here. And one of them's right below me, actually. And there's a witch. Man, if I ever find a skeleton spawner down here, I will absolutely be using it to farm experience. I'm even going to direct connect it to my mine shaft to where I can actually use it to just farm the crap right out of them. That's tough block. I don't see any of the originals, like, the surrounding symptoms of a spawner being around, but, you know. With as many ads as there are in here and mobs, there probably is one somewhere. I don't want to play with a witch right now, so I think what we're going to do is make it harder to be hit. Forward slowly, because that particular skeleton is going to be an issue. I can see that happening. No, I think we would be better served to have our own food production here at home versus expecting the rest of the world to do it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we ever should have done that.
That's true.
Like, I do believe that was a huge mistake, handing over that kind of resource management to another country. That should have never been that kind of policy should have never been allowed. And the worst part about that one is, the thing that makes this all so annoying is I'm like really, really hardcore conservative, right? That doesn't mean I'm a Republican, but Republicans oftentimes identify as conservatives. Whether they're conservative or not. You know, and a lot of them really aren't. They're just using the title as a catch-all to try to, curry votes in favor. That's what we call a rhino. Republican in name only. The problem is that Republican and conservatism gets lumped together so much that they're, politically speaking, oftentimes indistinguishable from each other. The problem is that a constitutional conservative is literally like text, history, tradition conservative. Republicans, on the other hand, it's more opportunistic. I'm doing this to get votes. And that's where people like Susan Collins come in. Lisa Murkowski, Angus King. They like to use their political branding to try to curry favor and votes, and they deny it at every turn, by the way. You will never hear a one of them openly admit to this, because if they did, it'd be career suicide. And you're not supposed to use that word, but you know what I mean. It's the end of their career if they admit to it. And it's a game that's played on all sides. It's kind of the nature of politics as a whole in the United States. It's disgusting, by the way. It's the epitome of disgusting behavior. But it's just kind of the system that we have and the way that people, operate in it. I think if you're a conservative or a liberal, you should absolutely identify as such, but using it just for your own political branding, I think that's filthy. That's the kind of dipshit scumbaggery that we're all kind of sick of dealing with every day. Okay. That's more iron. I'll grab that on my way back up. Can you grab lapis with a stone pickaxe?
The stone one?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Cool. I'm going to grab this on the way out. I do not have anywhere near the necessary gear to do the trial chamber. I am, however, going to kind of eke my way in here by digging into it a little bit to get a little sneak preview. If I can. What am I, on the floor? Oh no! I'm still on the ceiling!
Yeah. You gotta go down. In order to get in there.
Yeah, I don't have the stuff to deal with that at all. I mean, in theory, I don't. I can cheese it a little bit. Yeah, I need a flat piece to do that. I'm not going to do that right now. I have to come back down here with an iron pickaxe and grab some redstone and run back. So. In fact, actually, kind of gonna sound like I've been massively blackpilled on my own government, but that's not really the case. The second someone informed me that we had a situation like the Jeffrey Epstein situation, my first thought was, oh my god, this is a CIA operation. That was literally what I was thinking. And I know that sounds terrible to say out loud, but they've done so much sketchy shit, it's really hard not to think that way. As it turns out, no. It's just a scumbag. So, not everything is the CIA's fault either. I mean, they're responsible for more than their fair share of dirty shit, but you can't blame them for every wrongdoing on the planet, right? I mean, unless you're into, like, weird butterfly effect level bullshit, which we don't do that stuff here. That's, I hate to quote him here, but that's kind of more Alex Jones's territory than mine. And speaking of which, how many times is that guy going to be right about stuff before he actually loses his mind?
I don't know. I wish I knew about that one.
Like, he was right about them making the frogs gay.
I don't even know how he was right on that. Yes.
How is that man not, like, actively insane at this point?
I agree with that.
He's got to feel like he's taking crazy pills. I mean, come on. Okay, if I'm going to build the lava bucket generator for the cauldron... Oh... That's a good place to do it. This is how I have this base set up. The cauldron. I'm going to get the materials ready to do the thing. It's too bad you couldn't make a dripstone.
Yeah. You can eventually make a dripstone block, but well, you can't make dripstone without the block.
Yeah, I know, which means that I have to go back in the mine and find it.
That is very true.
But that's okay, because I actually have to go back in the mine anyway. This time I have to go down with a iron pickaxe. I'm not going to waste my gold sword on this, but I mean, yeah, gold sword's basically useless, but no. just take another iron pickaxe down with us. Or, not iron, but stone. You know what? No, we're not gonna go down there yet. Not yet. We're gonna build a different farm. I need it to be daytime for it to work these two. Oh my word, just get in the freaking bed, dude. Thank you. Okay. And my fiance knows exactly the farm I'm going to be doing now, because I've done it 1 billion times.
Yep. You're making your lava farm.
Nope.
No?
This is a chicken farm.
Oh, right. The lava chicken farm.
Nope, just the chicken.
Oh, just the one for the eggs?
Yep.
Ah.
I need them eggs. So in order for this to work, I need actually some pretty basic stuff. Start with 2 chests. We'll start with 1 actually. We'll make the hopper first. Bounce back here. Put the iron back. Grab that. Let's see. Doink. And 1 of these. Okay, now I can see a creeper blowing up outside and causing an issue with this particular farm, so we're not going to do it down there. So we'll do it up here. And actually, no. We are going to do it down here, but we're going to relocate some things down here. Yeah, like that. That's exactly what I was worried about. Okay. So I need some building materials. You're up. Okay, now I'm gonna have lava there. Let's see. Well, that's annoying but useful, actually. In fact, possibly the most useful development I've had so far. That wasn't directly my own doing. Okay. So, in order for this to work, I need to put you there. Crouch and place you. The top part of that. Make a little staircase so I can more easily get to the chicken box. Okay, place 1 there. I don't have the seeds on me, which is fine. I'm going to need to get up there though, so let's make sure that's open. Okay, now we'll go grab a seed or 2 from the box. And actually I need to make some things real quick. We need a slab, a set of slabs, and a trapdoor. Or two. Yes, perfect. You are exactly what I need you to be. Now, the question is... Oh, you jerk. Okay, well, we'll just set this up in the first place. That way we don't have to deal with this. Oh, Mr. Chicken. Mr. Pickles. And also, you want to set that like that for other reasons later. You... Hey, stop trying to commit suicide over here. Like, I know you chickens love to do stupid things in this game, but come on. Come on now. You know better than that. Okay. Get in the hole. There's one. Now, if I can make you all broody and stuff and wanting to do stuff with each other, maybe I won't have to do it the hard way. Free eggs. Thank you. Yes, this is Minecraft's most inhumane chicken coop. Now for the fun part, I get to actually build stuff down here to make sure that, you know, make sure all the things I don't want to get in here don't get in here. Thankfully, there was a creeper who was a little bit more too willing to help me with this process by blowing himself up. So, I just need to grab some more blocks. Oh, that's not the only chicken farm we're doing either. There's an even more despicable one that I have that involves actually those chickens. Oh yes. It's very loud. It's very annoying. But I use it to get like unlimited cooked chicken or, you know, raw chicken. And feathers for making arrows, so it is kind of a useful farm. Annoying noise aside.
Yeah, I still don't like that noise.
You know, I have yet to find someone who actually does like that noise.
Probably people who like ASMR sounds?
I'm not sure a constant clicking noise could be classified as ASMR.
I'm probably thinking about the wrong thing, but more like one of those white noise machine.
Yeah, maybe that. Maybe.
That's probably what I'm thinking of.
I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but it's possible. Okay, now. Now, I have everything I need except for the piece of dripstone. I've even started the chicken egg thing. Yep. Oh yeah, I gotta put some torches down here so that way we don't have anything spawning in here that we don't want. Speaking of things I didn't want. Okay. Now, as for this particular trapdoor, here's why it's set up like this. Here's why I'm not completely done with the build yet, but it's more or less so I can do this. Okay, just so we don't have any weird spawn-ins that we don't want. That's kind of the big thing to avoid here, is things spawning in your base
Yeah.
that really shouldn't be spawning in your base. And I also need to... This is a good spot, I guess. Put in a door for the mine shaft, so nothing gets the smart idea to try to climb up it. I mean, their pathing isn't really that good, but if at some point I decide to shift off to doing this as vanilla and want to throw in mods, there are a lot of mods that I have that are horror mods, and those zombies have better pathing than the native mobs for
And the fact that they can break
Minecraft.
the doors.
Yes, which is why I'm using copper that they can't break.
That is true.
So. Copper being the stronger door, yet not heavy enough to require a switch like iron, actually. Okay, so now we're on a mission to go get some dripstone, redstone, and I think that's probably about it for now. I mean, for now anyway. I know I can get a ton of redstone, and I know where. That's not a problem. The problem is actually 100% going to be the dripstone. And I need that so I can actually outright make... I don't like the concept of something spawning in this area and then shooting you while I'm going down the staircase, so... You're getting a barricade. My Titan in Destiny 2 would be happy. Before we get too far down here. Holy iron. Okay, well. You know what? Guess I just got lucky with a massive iron deposit. I don't mean massive. I really need to be careful about how many of these I actually tap into, though, until I can get a pickaxe with fortune and mending. So that way I can start, like, spamming, like, mass harvests. The redstone I'm not so worried about. Redstone has usefulness, but it's limited with me. Ew. There we go. Okay, now I need to go through here. I have zero desire to deal with your kind right now. And by their kind, I mean creatures in the trial chambers are not really what I'm after right now. Not particularly interested in that fight. Also, call me crazy, but I have seen dripstone this far down, but not very often. No. But I know it does exist this far down. It depends on where in the, like, what biomes you got. The best way to actually check that is to go online and grab your seed number and go into seed map. Or some, you know, other application that is very similar to it. I'm gonna have to quarry some of this. And I'm not using a stone pickaxe to do it, it just takes too long. Watch me pop into a spawn chamber right here. See, ordinarily, a player could be upset about that. Me, on the other hand, actually presents very exciting experience farm opportunities. Very close to my base, actually. And that's a dead drop. Straight up, like, straight down. Into water, actually.
Well, that's good.
I might actually bring some of my own water buckets down here later. So I can interconnect it and make it so I can elevate up and down without having the mobs follow me up and down as much. Whew. I hate doing this. If Minecraft was nothing but doing this, I would never play this game.
You would never play what game?
Minecraft, if it was all just this.
Cave and bridging?
High tense, intense bridging, actually.
Ah.
I hate the, feeling like you're gonna fall off all the time. It sucks. Because I just fell to my death. Because of a fucking skeleton out of nowhere.
Oh my.
Bucket. I need one of my buckets. I need some water. So I can go get my stuff back. Yep, that just friggin' happened. It's not even that I had good combat stuff. It's just I had a lot of redstone on me and I kind of need it. He got a lucky shot off. He should have never been able to get that shot. No chance. In fact, if I'm being real for a minute, I don't even know where I got shot from. Underwater, bitch. Facts didn't matter. Well, hey, now someone can say Aqua was useful somehow.
Really?
Well, I wasn't able to get everything back. I lost my torches, but I got all the important stuff back that I actually cared about. And that is probably the best part about this. And while I'm down here, I'm going to place an elevator bucket so I can get up and down here. But I'm not going to stick around down here, that's for sure. We'll do that when I actually have gear that's worth mentioning, not just, you know, pants and boots. And leather pants and boots at that. I'm just kind of irritated at the fact that I got dinged by a freaking skeleton like that. That's so annoying. Now I really don't want to progress without being able to place torches, which I don't have on my character. So now I have to go back up top. I'll need to take a look at something. Okay. Yep. Okay. So here's the thing. We are multi-streaming,
Yeah.
thankfully. The thing is that it's $27-ish per month, and my current investing partner, my wife in other words, does not have a problem with paying it, nor do I have a problem with fitting it into our budget per month. The thing is that I personally don't believe in running net negatives for long term. They're just not healthy for any sort of, well, anything really. So we're gonna have this set up for about 3 months and see what happens. If I see significant progress on my platforms and am actually using the software daily, or close to daily, about 2 to 3 times a week, I would argue at a minimum, then I would say that it was money well spent per month. Largely what we need to be doing is expanding our content to also cover recorded outdoors content, such as how to use a ferro rod, how to set up a tent when you don't have a tent, is important, stuff like that. And by the way, that is my perspective on what's important. There are a lot of content types out there, and there are a lot of content creators who are also into doing these things. So there's a lot of competition in that particular outdoors content market, and I'm very much aware of that fact. I should also note that this is not going to be a hardcore military trained yada yada. No, it's going to be a fat guy in the woods kind of thing. Okay, you're going to get everyday Joe. You know, I'm going to be showing normal people that normal people can do this stuff. I need to actually minimize the waste that's going on here. Because there's a lot of material loss that's happening because of this setup being built the way that it is. So, here's what we'll do. In case you're wondering why I'm grabbing all this cobblestone right now, I'm going to be building an entryway that goes all the way over to the cobblestone mill.
That's really cool.
And this way I don't have to go, do a cobblestone quarry, create another area for mobs to spawn. It's just better to do if you can get a lava bucket and a water bucket early enough, it's just well worth it to do this. And I even have a catch mechanism on the other side. So that way when I'm done, I can just pop down here, grab the 36 that dropped. And then we can just start building. Now that being said, there's a little bit of criticism to be had on my part for doing outdoors content while I'm a gaming YouTuber. I'm potentially overloading myself with content creation types, whereas just sticking to one niche is usually what most people do. And I can understand why they do it that way. And realistically speaking, doing Minecraft Let's Play streams and reviewing video games and stuff, it's not really that hard for me. Like, I'm not trying to downplay the significance or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, playing video games is kind of a favorite hobby of mine, and doing it for a YouTube channel is really not that big of a deal for me anyway. The thing that's really going to put the strain on my ability to do this little project, if you will, is actually going to be the outdoors content. And that's because the amount of time you have to dump into actually going out and recording videos. So that's going to be where a lot of my concern is going to be located. Is going to be, do we have the resources to be able to do this?
Well, we're eventually gonna get them.
Oh, definitely, yes. No, don't misunderstand me. It's going to happen. That's not to be misunderstood as I don't want to do this. I do want to do this, and we're going to do this. It's just more of a, we have to be careful about...
How we do it.
Yeah. Definitely. Number one, there are other YouTubers and other content creators that I actually look up to. And I definitely don't want to step on their toes. That goes like Asmongold, Grums, Rev says Desu, Corporal Kelly, that's Corporal's Corner, and like Greg Ovens. These are all people that I enjoy watching on YouTube, and I want to lightly poke into their niches without seeming like I'm trying to take away their viewers. Because that's not the goal of this. I'm not trying to compete in that way. In fact, if I ever was given an opportunity to, I would be extremely happy to say that I had an alliance with these people of some sort. Because, you know, while... And the same thing goes for the political stuff, too. I'm not going to even remotely think about trying to go toe-to-toe with Tim Pool. That'd be insane. At least I think it would be insane personally. Do I think someone could? Sure. Maybe someone with a little bit less volatility in their opinions. Maybe. And I know someone out there is going to say, but Shock Jock content gets a lot of views. Lols. Well, that's great, but I don't want to do shock content. That's for nuisance streamers and people who generally are not people I want to associate with, to be honest. And that right there is the thing I don't want to be, is a nuisance streamer. Nope. That kind of content is not for me. And when I say stuff like I would love to go to Japan and do some video recordings, I mean of like scenic routes and like fancy foods and stuff. I'm not going to go there and make an ass of myself on purpose for attention. No. If you have to do that to get attention, then you should not be doing this, like, at all. This should not be your, the way you make money. You failed somewhere in developing your channel. That's what that tells me. Because, like, I actually have a great deal of respect for Japan and the Japanese people. And people like this Johnny Smalley moron, who's rightfully going to jail for being a moron. Well, FAFO, I believe, is the current acronym that we're using. And he FA'd, and now he's gonna FO. And from the way it sounds, the South Korean government is more than willing to make him find out. Rightfully so, from what I've heard. But that's a situation that really doesn't involve me, if we're being honest. It's just something that I've been kind of following. But it's an example of what not to become, what not to be. You know, we're here to make content. We're here to make good with people, not be a burden on, more of a burden on society than some of us already are. And people like him are an example of what never to become. And he's finding that out the hard way, isn't he?
He probably wishes he wasn't.
Oh, definitely. I know, right?
I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. And he
Yeah,
did this to
the
himself.
South Korean government's not really something you want to mess with too much.
I know, and he did this to himself, too.
And the
That
worst,
makes it worse.
like, the worst part about it is that the South Korean government actually isn't really that bad overall. It's just that he pushed so many of the wrong buttons that he's kind of got it coming.
That is very true.
And it wasn't only with South Korea. Like, South Korea was just the latest on the list of places that he's messed around with in the worst possible way.
Yeah, that is true.
And he thinks that he's going to go over there and act like, you know, his First Amendment or whatever is going to work in another country. That's not how it works. That's... Look, I do personally believe it should work that way, but...
It's not going to.
It's not going to, because that's not the United States. They make their own rules over there. They are their own country. And thinking that you're going to impose your way of things on them is going to go over well. Yeah, maybe not so much. So I don't get shot in the back while I'm doing this. I am going to have to put a cover stone over there to make sure that some blocks don't get, you know, like what I can already see is happening. I have some loss, well, temporary loss blocks over there. There we go. That should be more than enough to finish sealing up the ceiling on the mill. There we go. The mill is covered. Just to make sure we don't have any of them explodey boys making the mistake of thinking that I want them to explode on me. We're going to remove their line of sight with the mill. Go make some torches to light the area up. So that way the game code doesn't get the wrong idea and think that I want things to spawn in there. Because I don't. Let's see. Houston, we do not have a problem. But I'm gonna make these torches, put my character to bed, and then I actually have to get off of here because we have to figure out what we're doing for dinner. It's 7:30, so you know.
Yeah. Oh, it is 7:30.
Yes, it sure is, and you have to work tomorrow.
Yes, I do. Okay, and that'll make it so I don't have to worry about breaking the blocks over there. I'll just post a torch here, one in that corner there, and just to make sure we don't have any issues. There, 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 and there. And that should make this one. Oh yeah, just ensure that we don't have any other issues that way. Or up top. I don't want any spawns up here.
we go. We have a location for another portal. The only thing I wasn't able to achieve during the stream was a dripstone.
That is true. You did not get your dripstone.
But I think other than that, I have reason to be perfectly happy with what I did get. So. I was even able to get some diamond out of that. Got a lot of iron rolling. I got all kinds of stuff going on. The only way this could get any better is if I decided to make a villager iron farm. But I don't think we're going to do that. That's more work than I really want to put into this game. I mean, it's not really a lot of work. It's not really a lot of work. It's just a lot of technical BS that you have to understand about the game in order to make it work right.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think we're going to save and quit this one. But I think we're going to change the name of it before we get off, so that way people know what we're... When I do log back in tomorrow... people know that we're not, you know...
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
Because it's not just a starter on Rumble anymore, it's a starter on the multi-stream
That
package.
is true. That is very true.
So, okay, man, on that particular note, if you like the content, hit the like and subscribe button. Leave a comment, share it amongst your friends, and I will see you in the next one.